Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Brent Freeman. He's a serial entrepreneur, an advisor, and a keynote speaker, but most importantly, has so damn much experience that this is going to be an incredible conversation about what's really at the root of business mindset. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. Pleasure to be here. Really excited to chat.
Let's start by talking a little bit about your background, because it does set the stage for, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, how far back do you want to go? Because there's a lot there.
I'll let you give us the sort of the highlight reel, so to speak, with the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So born in the Bay Area, grew up in the first .com bubble, to a father who's a cinematographer, director of photography in the cinematic art world, and to a stepmother who was an entrepreneur. And my birth mom, passed away when I was 7 years old, and obviously it really changed the way that I looked and viewed at the world. And I grew up seeing the dichotomy between the hustle and grind culture of entrepreneurship and the art and creation culture of the artistic world where my dad was. And that really shaped how I viewed the world, because I didn't want to be in the workaholic side of things, and I didn't want to just be in the hope and pray side that things will work out. I really wanted to be kind of in the middle. And when I went to college, I got the opportunity to really kind of put those things to test and join the entrepreneur program at my college, and got really involved with the Entrepreneur Club and reaching out to mentors, and eventually started my first business at the age of 22. It was a money chase to just make as much money to pay back my student loans as much as possible. I went to the University of Southern California, very expensive tuition. And actually, my folks went bankrupt my freshman year in college. And so I graduated with about $250,000 of student loan debt. And I used entrepreneurship to try to get myself out of that debt, and chase the money. And for 2 years, worked hard on it was an international commodities import-export business in Dubai and Los Angeles. Random course of events that brought me into that industry. But at the age of about 23, 24, closed a $10 million deal, and remember feeling completely hollow on the inside afterwards. I was expecting this like full body fulfillment that you get when something's intrinsically motivating, and I didn't get that. And then the global financial crisis hit, and what was millions became hundreds, and then 100,000 became tens of thousands, and that business ended up failing. And I only walked away with maybe 40 or 50K. When it was supposed to be millions, still a lot of money, but the opportunity to take those learnings and apply it. And I was still very young. And so I realized that money wasn't the motivator for me. It was about impact. And that was always something, because, when my mom died, I always said this happened for a reason. And it kind of gave me a gift to say, I'm going to live every day, not quite like it's my last, but with purpose. And so I had, I got away from myself in that venture in the commodity side. And so I came back to center and said, I want to do something that makes an impact and a profit, bring those two worlds together. And so I built an Etsy style platform, an online marketplace, but for socially conscious brands. And we were on a really passionate mission early on to prove to the world that you can embed cause into your cogs. And we did that, and we got a lot of press and Forbes and you name it. We were all over the place, and it was really wonderful, except for we didn't have a good business model ourselves. A lot of learning lessons being a digital entrepreneur early without having a tech background. And that business ultimately ended up failing after about 5 years. We can go into more of that later, but there was a lot of learnings that came out of that. But I was really, really, really passionate about using business to create social impact. And so I dedicated my life, actually, about 13 years ago to doing just that, to using business to create social impact. And so then I went on to start my current company, which was not a venture-backed company. It's called Stealth Venture Labs. And we are an accelerator and incubator for e-commerce and consumer brands. And we teach that to low-income disadvantaged youth as well in our own nonprofit. And this business that I'm in now, Stealth Venture Labs, we've incubated over 20 of our own brands, co-founded tons of brands, some of which are in the tens of millions of revenue, and some are out of business. And what we found kind of all along the way is that as you go, it's not about the destination. It's really about enjoying the journey, because we're not promised the destination. And so, my background, kind of the high level, is really about failing forward and using failure as a stepping stone to create the foundation of future success.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it is a beautiful story. And I also think that you said something that is so incredibly good that I sort of want to take a highlighter and really bring it back to life. So you made a comment about enjoying the journey because we're not guaranteed the destination. That is not the mindset that most people have, not even just business owners, but just humans in general. I found in my many years of working with people that there is this common theme. People have this expectation that when I get the thing, then I will be happy. Then I will be fulfilled. Then I will feel financially secure. Then I will feel loved and worthy. And that just simply doesn't work.
Nope.
So I'd love for you to expand upon that, because I know that you have been deep in the trenches of inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And because you so gracefully just seeded that truism in there, talk on that a little bit more, because we have an amazing audience. These are truly heart-centered, conscious entrepreneurs that are looking for the edge. They understand the importance of working on their mindset, on the inner game, as well as the outer game of business. But there's still that tendency to always be reaching for something else to sort of heal that inner wound, neutralize the discomfort. And in my years of working with individuals at all different levels of success, it is so common for someone to come to me and say, I achieve the goal, I get the money, I hit the target, and I don't enjoy it. I don't feel happy.
Totally.
So what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, let's go. We're going to unpack some good stuff here. So, life is all about the journey. And I have learned that both the easy and hard way. And what I mean by that is the easy way is through my own experience. The hard way, my own personal firsthand experience, the hard way was actually through dealing with a lot of loss and death from an early age. My mom, my grandparents I was very close with. I had been to more funerals than weddings by a factor of like 5 by the time I was 20. And so when you're exposed to that much loss from an early age, things just kind of shift a little bit in terms of how you view the world. Whereas when you're typically younger and you're insulated from that, you can kind of think, oh, we're immortal, we have forever, we're going to live forever. And then when you start to see how things can shift and change, and that's not the case, your mind shifts a little bit. And so I remember when I was in 6th, 7th grade, I would make decisions being like, 10 years from now, what am I going to remember? What am I going to regret? Like, who does that in 6th, 7th grade, right? Like me, apparently, right? And it was this mindset shift early that life's a gift, because I saw firsthand how that can be taken away. As I got older, it's interesting. We are so programmed by society, media, our parents, our peers, our colleagues, what everyone says is the definition of success, that we don't realize that our subconscious minds are so hypnotizable at an early age. In fact, our brains don't even really fully develop into what we call, consciousness until we're about 10, 11, 12, in that range, in the beta brainwave side of things. And so basically from 0 to about 10 years old, we are just sponges and being soaked in all the media, all the things of what success, everything we're hearing is being programmed into our subconscious mind. And as we get older, how that plays out is, success is this. Success is having the house, the car, the this, the that, all these different things. And you are actually living a life of the program, the matrix, if you will, right? Of like going after something that everyone tells you is going to bring happiness, including in entrepreneurship, making the money, having this, having a certain amount of revenue. Once I get this, once I do this, once I sell my business, I cannot even tell you how many friends I have that have either sold their business, gotten a lot of money, or whatever it may be. And they get to that point and they're unhappy, including myself. And, I woke up one morning about 4 or 5 years ago with all the material things, but none of the internal things. I was going through a divorce. I was overweight. I neglected my health. I didn't feel like I had tribe and community that that loved and supported me at the time. And, instead of being grateful for all the material things, I looked out and was contemplating suicide. And it was a aha moment for me, obviously, of rock bottom that says, wait a second, there's something else going on here in this world that I'm missing, and I'm focusing on the wrong things. And as I had that, it was actually like a Tuesday morning, and I looked out. I lived in San Francisco at the time, and I looked out at the fog and clouds passing me by. I lived in a high-rise building, and I remember seeing these clouds, and I had tried to meditate a bunch before and couldn't get it to stick. I couldn't. ADD, dyslexia, too many anxiety going on. And then I see these clouds, and I remember a meditation technique called noting that says, your thoughts are only like clouds. They're always passing. They're only temporary, and the sun is always shining behind them. And when I sat there and had this dark kind of Tuesday morning of the soul, and I looked out at the clouds and I saw this, so these clouds passed me, I was like, man, this is like my thoughts. Their sun is shining behind them, but I have to get to that. And so I realized that I had neglected everything that had actually brought me joy. And I had chased things that everyone told me would bring me quote unquote happiness, but I hadn't actually done the things that made me actually happy from the inside out. And I define joy as what makes you smile from the inside out. And so that night I went and watched a sunset at the beach, and I hadn't done it in years and years. And I cried, and I was like so emotional about like, why did I get so far away from my inner joy? That I made a pledge to myself that day that I would never stray so far from my joy ever again. And I would invest into things that brought me joy every single day, even if they were small. And then I'd be like, well, what the hell brings me joy? And so I had to sit there and I wrote a list. And that was hard because I had been so focused on the program of chasing what everyone else said would make me happy, or what society does, or I thought would make me happy. That was this pre-program, rather than saying, oh, actually, like sunsets bring me joy. Italy brings me joy. Speaking Italian, mountain bike, right? These things that are nothing to do with work. And I hadn't done any of them because I was saying, well, one day when I get there, one day when I get there, one day when I get there. Well, that one day happened. I was 30, 40 pounds overweight. I was going through divorce, all of a sudden. But I was living in a high-rise apartment, and I had the fancy car and all the things and a company and a 7-digit, run rate business, but I was unhappy. So what does it matter if we get there and we're unhappy, or we're not surrounded by the things and people that light us up? And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I every single day I invest into joy, and the return on joy has been like astronomical in terms of the transition of my life, because now I'm doing things that make me smile from the inside out, even if it's a small thing like just cuddling my dogs in the morning before getting out of bed, or taking a minute to sip and have my coffee, look outside my window, what I call life TV, just taking a minute. It doesn't need to be big things. It can just be little things like fresh fallen snow, or a beautiful song, or the breeze on your face. It's just like these little things of getting more in touch with joy allows you to start to enjoy the journey, and that one day becomes 2 day. And you said something I think really astute, is that we put, and I was very guilty of this, we put so much weight on, once I get there, then I'll have this. And when I get there, I will then be able to feel this emotion. And in the world of kind of the law of attraction, which goes all the way back to Napoleon Hill's and Think and Grow Rich, and of the thoughts you put out there, thoughts become things. And if any entrepreneur listening to this, or entrepreneur, or early stage entrepreneur, or aspiring entrepreneur has not read the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich book, I could not recommend it higher. It is not just about financial riches, it's about riches however you define it. And it's all about the law of attraction, of how you put a thought out there and the thoughts become things, and then training your subconscious mind. The one thing that he left out in that was what we now know to be neuroscience, which is you can't just put the thought out there. You actually have to put an emotion and attach an elevated emotion to that thought now, before of having that thing or whatever you're trying to create. Otherwise, you're actually turning the magnet around, and you are repelling what it is you are trying to attract, because you are feeling lack or scarcity or sadness or depression or inferiority or non-worthiness. You are feeling that. And so even though you're putting something out there as a thought of what you're trying to create, when you are in those low vibration emotions and you start to actually repel away, people say, oh, the law of attraction doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Well, typically it's because they are waiting for the thing to feel the emotion. And the trick is to actually drop in, get quiet. Could be meditation, could be prayer, could just be a moment in nature walking. Drop in and say, let me visualize. What would it feel like if I were to have that thing now? And actually feel that emotion now, in the high and elevated emotions, and in gratitude and love, or in this beautiful space of like, wow, I want to build a family one day. What would it feel like to like hold my son or my daughter one day? Wow, I'm going to feel that now. I'm going to feel that emotion, even though it's not happened. And what that will do is that emotion attached to the thought is the key to unlock the kind of the boomerang effect of you put the thought out there and having it come back to you. And in the neuroscience side of things, all you're doing is your brain doesn't have a sense of past, present, or future. It's all now, right? And if you even get into like the fifth dimension, quantum stuff and quantum physics, it's all happening now, right? And your brain doesn't know past, present, or future. And so if you are actually dropping into an emotion now of gratitude, let's say, and you are truly feeling gratitude for something that hasn't happened yet, your body doesn't know that it hasn't happened yet. You're feeling it now. That's why when you get pissed off about something happening in the past and you want to, like, you feel it now, like it's happening in front of you, and we can conjure up these emotions, and we actually are reliving the trauma of the past now when we feel it, and we carry it forward. And so we're going to take that same energy and we're going to flip it, and we're going to add an elevated emotion and say a future event or thing or whatever I'm trying to create that's a goal to me, I'm going to add an emotion to it. And I'm going to bring that emotion into it now, and I'm going to feel the future now. In the Dispenza community, they call it remembering your future. Dr. Joe Dispenza, brilliant doctor and neuroscience researcher and meditation guru, that talks a lot about the things that we're talking about. Him and Bruce Lipton, a bunch of others, just really cool stuff happening around there. But basically, the side of this is that your brain you're tricking your brain to feel the emotion of your future now. And I know this can sound a little bit opaque, but how does that relate to enjoying the journey? Well, if we are waiting for one day to get there, and that one day never comes, we've wasted our entire life hoping and praying that that one day gets there. And I got bad news. The majority of people I know that once they get there, they say, is this it? Is that it? And like I did, I had it early on. I got there and I was like, that's it. I feel empty. It doesn't, because there's extrinsically motivating things and there's intrinsically motivating things. And if you're not moving on what's intrinsically motivating you from a sense in a place of joy, and you're not enjoying the journey, and you're not feeling that feeling now, you are going, the one day will never come. And so, my message to the world is, how do we make one day today? And how do we really focus on getting back to ourselves internally and reconnecting with our inner child and the things that bring us joy by making an annual, sometimes twice a year, annual list of joy, and then building off of that into something I call priority pillars, which is typically health, family, career, community, and faith or spirituality. And then using those priority pillars of your life, these are my priorities of my life, but building them out of the things that bring you joy. Now you've gone into say, these are my priorities, and the things that fill up my health are the things that bring me joy. So now working out is no longer a task. It's, I love mountain biking. I love this. So I'm going to go do it. And then taking those priority pillars and turning them into goals that you then subconsciously prime. And all that means is, as you set goals, the reason most of our goals and things fail in New Year is because they're not intrinsically motivated; they're extrinsically motivated. We think we have to do this, and so the subconscious priming, based off of the things that bring you joy, is about setting goals. And every night, every morning, you look at your goals that what you're trying to achieve. I like 6-month increments. I think 12 months is too long, and then attaching an emotion right now to what you're trying to create. And and you say, well, how do I do that? I don't know what it would feel like. Well, when you get there, if you say, oh, it'll feel like love or gratitude, I'd feel so proud, or I'd feel so happy. Okay, great. The little hack is think back to a memory in your lifetime where you felt one of those emotions deeply, full body. Drop into that, close your eyes, feel it, feel the breeze on your face, whatever it's at, and just feel it full body and feel that emotion of the past now. And then open your eyes and read your goals. And what you're doing is you're tricking your brain to feel that emotion based off a past memory, which it doesn't understand is in the past. It's all happening in the present, to attach it to goals you're trying to create in the future. And so this is something that I'm starting to write a book about, kind of tying in all the entrepreneurial side of things with the neuroscience, with kind of the meditation and the Eastern philosophy with Napoleon, all into one. Because when I stood there on at my window, that kind of dark Tuesday of the soul, I felt so alone, and I felt so trapped, and I felt so misled. I had to dig in and kind of do the work, and I'm still in the work to discover these things, to create a framework to help me kind of pull out of it so I can change the trajectory. It's not just about money. Money, obviously, there's a certain amount that makes you happy. But it was about me living a life of fulfillment, because we're not, there's no dress rehearsal in life, and we're not promised the destination. So that's, my long-winded way of explaining to you, because there's a lot there to unpack. So I had to kind of, give you kind of the full story of kind of how I operate.
There's a lot of gold in what you just shared. And I'm going to encourage people to actually re-listen to this interview, because you shared so much in such a short period of time. One of the things that I want to focus in on just for a moment, because this is something that I've been doing with my clients for many, many years. It's not often talked about in sort of conventional business type of training. But now if you go into the works of Napoleon Hill and many of the other sort of more esoteric thinkers, like back to the real basics, like not the kind of stuffy, conventional, close-minded, set goals, hustle, grind mindset stuff. We're talking about like the stuff that really successful people ultimately often stumble upon. There is, and I love Dr. Joe Dispenza for putting this information out there in such an accessible way.
Yep.
And so many people are teaching it, that once you start to get down the rabbit hole, you're going to be bombarded with it. It really is everywhere. But this understanding of how the universe operates, this understanding of the law of vibration, the law of attraction, and we're not talking about concepts. We're not talking about theory. This is law-based, as fundamental as the law of gravity. That's right. When you are able to create within yourself the emotion, and you're able to feel that you are, and I love to bring back the brain science part of this as well. It's not just feeling good. You're simultaneously reprogramming your brain. You're simultaneously reprogramming your mind. Yep. So each and every time you get yourself into that mindset, that vibrational state, that emotional state, you are feeling it as though you are experiencing it. So it's still, it's in your mind, but just like you said, you can remember something that happened back in 5th grade, Sally tripped you, and now you're still butt sore over it,
You're fragmented from it because you're reliving that trauma of the past. Now your body doesn't know, you're actually bringing it back up. I think people don't realize how powerful our body is, in terms of, we are the smartest living computer on the planet, in terms of an organism. There's no battery pack to us us. We are empowered by some sort of innate intelligence. Doesn't matter what you call that, if it's the universe or if it's God or whatever your belief system is. There's something that's powering us. Each of us have his own unique soul inside of us that create our unique personalities in this unique organism. And we have for so long Eastern philosophy has been espousing everything we're talking about. But now what's happened is the neuroscience and the scientific research is showing what's happening to our bodies physically when we do these things like programming. And it's been written off for so many years around like, it's woo woo, right? And now it's true woo, right? And now it's one of these things where it's like, okay, it is physically shown that when you drop into meditation and you calm your mind, all of the positive benefits that it has for your mind, body, and spirit, and what's happening in your brainwaves of going from this high stress analysis paralysis down into kind of like this calm heart and brain coherence where things start to beat in rhythm and your body can relax and your autonomic nervous system can actually take a breather for a second. And so as it relates to entrepreneurship, and as it relates to running your own businesses, I think, one of the most toxic things to ever happen to our entrepreneurial culture is this hustle and grind, work, and I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality. Because it doesn't have to be like that. It actually propagates on itself if you take that in as saying this is the only way to success. Well, first of all, let's define what success actually means by going into living a life of joy and enjoying the journey. And then secondly, saying there's got to be a better way. We don't need to be living in constant reptilian amygdala firing, high cortisol all day, because all that does is lead to burnout, stress, and disease, right? Short term, great. There's something called eustress, eustress, and then stress, distress, right? Eustress is motivating to action. Oh, got it. Line on the savannah. Got to go, right? Distress is a state of chronic stress over time that leads our bodies to shut down, because when cortisol is pumping through our system, it's not a time to have all their bodily functions work and eat. And it's like everything is right being taken over by this cortisol. Now, when you get out of distress and you say, okay, I can be in eustress, eustress, I can actually get into a state of like, oh, I need to pay attention to that. I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to come back into neutral. And what that means is that as we design our companies and our entities, it takes more energy and effort to intentionally design your company, your business model, and your processes and your procedures, so that you can maintain a work-life balance that is reasonable. Because this is one of the most stressful jobs on the planet, being an entrepreneur. And so if we aren't taking the time to recharge, I shut my email off now. I didn't used to always do this, but this led to part of the problem. But I shut my email off now at 7 p.m. and I don't turn it back on my phone. And all my notifications, every single one of my notifications on my phone is off. I don't have any red buttons on any. I had to manually do all that. And it's because I want to manage my inputs. You wouldn't go every single day and eat McDonald's 3 meals a day and expect your body to be healthy. And so the inputs into our mind and how we take care of our mind and our body is the same. So news and social media and your inputs and being on defense creates this constant state of cortisol, to where we're not creating things out of a space of joy and love. It's typically out of a space of scarcity. And now, have there been examples of people who have created billion-dollar enterprises out of it? Yes. But I'm not sure that that's who we want to model off of moving forward if we're really trying to optimize to enjoy the journey and live a life of joy and have that return on joy. Just because somebody has, quote unquote, made it like in financial side of things. We've seen time and time again, rock stars and successful entrepreneurs who have drug overdoses and mental health issues. So we are at a point in time where we now understand more about what's happening to our bodies due to chronic stress than we ever have. And as job creators, entrepreneurs, I think the number one most socially conscious thing we can do is make sure that we are creating an environment for our staff, our team, their families to be safe, protected, well taken care of, and focus on mental health and still achieve high levels of professional success and commercial success. It is possible. I am doing it. I have multiple 8-figure businesses that run with that mentality, but it does require intentional design from the beginning and a little bit of patience to understand that you're not going to see a lot of people right now modeling similarly to, you're starting to see more and more, but we're on the front edge, the bleeding edge of this as kind of a work revolution.
So good. And this is the perfect segue for you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So the fastest way we check the email all the time is brent.freeman@stealthventurelabs.com. Brent.freeman@stealthventurelabs.com. Our website is stealthventurelabs.com. That's kind of our whole website. My personal is brentfreeman.me. And I'm on Instagram, Brent_Freeman, Brent_Freeman. Reach out in any of those channels. Happy to connect. Like I said, I'm in the process, the early stages, I'm running a lot of businesses, but I'm in the early stages of kind of codifying all of this into a book and framework to share with the world, and hope to be sharing more and more of this over time with the public.
Awesome. Well, you are a wealth of information. We probably could have done a full day seminar, just letting you share. This has been fantastic. And I do encourage our listeners to re-listen to this one. There is so much wisdom that you just kind of like skated over so quick. It really, really is a pleasure having you on. And I appreciate everything that you shared with us today, Brent.
Thank you for having me, Alicia. I appreciate it.
And of course, thank you to all of our listeners. You know that we're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.